Welcome back to another edition of Borough Sports. Today, my dream matchup has come true. Panthers Rangers Wednesday night in Madison Square Garden. Speaking of Madison Square Garden, the Knicks got eliminated and got shot out of the gym by the Pacers. We finally get the NFL schedule, and there's some interesting little tidbits going on with especially the Jets game, but also some of the Giants games. And finally, we got to end with some doom and gloom with the Mets. But first, I'd like to remind everyone to please like, comment, and subscribe. We're trying to get to 50 subscribers. Thank you so much. So we got to lead off with the Borough Sports playoff matchup. Rangers and Panthers, again, starting off at Madison Square Garden on Wednesday at 8 p.m. The Panthers were able to dispatch of Boston in 6 games in more of an even series. The games were close, but the Panthers were pretty steady. There were some blowouts in the beginning and some nasty fighting, but Panthers seemed a little more even in their series. They lost the first game, but they managed to finish him up in 6. The Rangers, on the other hand, they led 3-0 and then lost the next 2. And then we got to game 6, and they were able to finish them off. They were not playing well in game 6, the Rangers, but then Kreider went off with a third period hat trick, and that put them away. But the Rangers only played essentially one good period of hockey in the past 3 games. And it's for that reason I'm going to pick the Florida Panthers to win and repeat as Eastern Conference champions because they've been more even keel. Now, this doesn't mean that I think the Rangers are a bad team or that the Rangers can't win this series. I think it's going to be a 6-game series. It's going to be very similar. There are times when I'm watching the Rangers, I'm like, what are you guys doing? Hey, you seem very lethargic. You don't know what's going on. The Panthers, they might be getting blown out, but they're getting into fights, and then they keep it close in the other games. The first 2 periods of that last game, the Rangers won, but they looked very lethargic. They didn't look like they were going to win this game. It looked like it was going to go back to Madison Square Garden and repeat with like the Knicks situation did. And they could have lost that series if they didn't show up in that third period like they did in game 6. I think it's going to be a good goalie battle. The Rangers and Panthers both have great goalies, so we'll see what happens. But again, I'm picking the Panthers in 6. I know I'm a Panthers fan. I kind of grew up as an Islanders fan, but not really. I started watching hockey more when I moved down to Florida. But I'm going to go ahead and pick the Panthers in 6. I think they're a little more even and they show up more in every game. I think the Rangers are the more talented team, and they have the potential to win it all. But this is going to be a close series, and I think it just comes down to who shows up more. And based on the play I've seen in the last few games, the Panthers show up more. They might not win every game, but they show up more and they keep it close, and that's what you need to do when you are trying to win a hockey playoff game. Speaking of playoff games in Madison Square Garden, we had the Knicks and Pacers duking it out. A lot of people were upset that there was a big Knicks fan love fest at the beginning of the game. They were constantly cutting to celebrities. It was a little obnoxious. The Garden was rocking to start. That was quickly dissipated when the Pacers shot 70% from the field in the first half. They couldn't miss. And the Pacers' strategy, and I said this earlier, but I mean, it's common sense when you look at the situation. I'm not saying I'm like some basketball savant, but the Pacers were a deep team that likes to run it down the court, and it was happening in the game. The Knicks would score, the Pacers get a rebound or inbound the ball and run it back down and score again. They wanted to, for lack of a better term, outpace the Knicks because they knew they were going to tire out the Knicks. The Knicks weren't deep. They were deep during the regular season, but they lost so many people um, that it finally caught up to them. They put up a valiant effort. They got it within seven in the third. But Brunson, he broke his hand, he fractured his hand, and that was pretty much it. They didn't really have a shot after that. The injuries finally caught up to them, but they did have a chance to win that game. But you got to give credit to the Pacers. They hit their shots in the first half, and that pretty much sealed it away. When you shoot 70% in a half, and then I think if they had a 30-point third quarter or something, the Knicks just and that was the fear was that the Knicks would get tired out and the Pacers just wore them down throughout the series. And you could see it. You could see it. It was kind of nice to see the Knicks fans giving Hart a standing ovation and being appreciative of the Knicks because they laid it out all on the court for sure. There will be Thibodeau questions because again all these injuries are piling up and Thibodeau doesn't like to rest guys. So we'll see. Also, a lot of stars don't want to play for Thibodeau, and I think they're one or two stars away, maybe a star and a role player away from being a championship contender, especially in the East. Um, the East right now it's pretty weak. I mean, you got the Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals. They deserve to make it. I'm not taking anything away from that, but that were not expected to make it. Especially if you look at what happened in the West. The West was crazy too. The Timberwolves winning. Shout out to A-Rod. He was able to get his team to the Western Conference Finals, while Jeter was able to sell Giancarlo Stanton for a ham sandwich for owning the Marlins. Thank you for that. Um, Granted, Stanton has been injury prone and would be terrible on the Marlins right now, but that's besides the point. The Marlins didn't do anything with it, and they don't have any prospects. And some of the other prospects they got, like Theo Brinson, were terrible. And they're in rebuild right now too. But we're getting off topic. You got to feel pretty good if you're a Knicks fan. You didn't get to the conference finals. You really wanted to get there, um, but you can't have that many injuries late in the season and expect to make it. It's going to catch up to you, and it finally did. Right now, my favorite and the team that I want to win is Minnesota. I want Minnesota to win the whole thing. They've never won. They haven't won it. Minnesota, the city itself, in the four major sports, hasn't won in over 50 years. So it would be pretty cool to see Minnesota. They're pretty likable, except for like Rudy Gobert, uh, the COVID, the source of the NBA COVID strain. But yeah. I think Wolves Mavericks is going to be fantastic. And don't sleep on the Pacers. They will fight. Rick Carlisle is a great coach. He's better than Joe Mazzulla. I think the Pacers will finally get a real challenge. Sorry, the Celtics will finally get a real challenge. But we'll see. But like I said, I'm rooting for the Timberwolves. I think they're going to win the whole thing. Um, but only time will tell with that. Moving on, we got the NFL schedule release, which they made into this big event, which was actually pretty cool. I liked what the Dolphins did with the super fast schedule release because they're the fastest team in the NFL. So I'm just going to go over some quick things that I noticed. The Dolphins, interestingly enough, have a Bills game early and a Bills game in Miami early, which benefits the Dolphins, and then a Bills game in November up in Buffalo. Um, the Dolphins need. It's good that the Dolphins have a Bills game down here in Miami early on. It's on September 12th, so it's going to be hot. It is not going to be pleasant unless a hurricane hits and they got to play it somewhere else. This really benefits the Dolphins if they could get that Bills win. Their schedule is not the worst. Leading off, they play the Jags and the Bills, then the Seahawks and the Titans and the Pats. Eh, If they could win the first few games, they need to rack up wins early in the season because that's when the weather benefits them the most, and they're going to be most used to it. Um, and they also have some defensive player injuries that they're catching up on. But again, like I said in the previous video, I'm really excited to see the Dolphins' new offense with Odell and see how that operates. But again, like I said, we want a fast start and then maintain a steady schedule. Tua needs to take the next step as the quarterback of the future, or else he's not going to get paid and they're going to draft someone else. Oh, he'll get paid by someone if he's not paid by the Dolphins, but I think the Dolphins are going to re-sign him. He's their best quarterback since Dan Marino. Moving on, we got the Giants. The Giants finally aren't starting the season against the Cowboys. They actually have a winnable game against the Vikings up in New York. Let's see if they can win that one. The Giants also have a game in Germany against the Panthers in Munich. Good luck with that, Germany. I don't think it's going to be the biggest draw unless Carolina steps up, but we'll see what happens. This is another rebuilding year for the Giants. Unfortunately, it sucks because they didn't draft a quarterback, which is very disappointing on their part. And again, they end the season with the Eagles, which Eagles fans were like, "Oh, the Giants are going to end the season on a loss." And I was like, "Bro, we beat you guys in the last game of the season last year, and you needed that win to get home field." So I don't know what they were talking about. Um, but yeah, I like that it's pretty cool that they have a game in Germany. But other than that, it's pretty much standard fare for the Giants. They gotta hopefully do better than what they're expected to do. And finally, the New York Jets got the Niners in San Fran to open up the season, and the guy who hurt Aaron Rodgers last year is playing for the Niners. Amazing. Well done, NFL. And it's also Robert Sala's old team as well. Um, that's going to be a rough one for the Jets. It then starts to ease up for the Jets. Um, they just need Aaron Rodgers to be healthy, and we'll see where the team goes. They end the season with the Dolphins up in New York, so that could be a really important game. Uh, their end of their end of season schedule is not easy. They have the Colts, the Seahawks, the Dolphins, the Jets. Sorry, the Jaguars, the Rams, the Bills, and then the Dolphins again. That is not an easy schedule. Although they do get the Dolphins twice during winter months, that's pretty beneficial for them. Um, I don't know if the Dolphins will win the division. If the Jets are hurt, then if Aaron Rodgers gets hurt, then the Dolphins should win the division. If not, I think it could be the Jets if Aaron Rodgers can stay healthy, but we'll see what happens. The Jets find ways to jet every season. Some other interesting notes I saw where the Steelers have like the hardest schedule in like the last like 8 weeks. It's brutal. They play like the entire AFC North and then like the Ravens and the Chiefs and like it was awful. The Steelers are like need to start the season like red hot and like hope that they can scrounge out some wins toward the end there. And they were talking about that on the Rich Eisen show. Is this the end of Mike Tomlin's winning season and playoff appearance thing? Which very well might be because that schedule is absolutely brutal and I don't know what their quarterback situation is going to look like unless Russ has this amazing resurgence, but I don't really see that happening with this team. And moving on, we finally have to talk about the New York Mets. Losing 2-3 to the Marlins, they won the last one. This team is just not good. The bats aren't waking up. Diaz has lost it. There were way too many ifs going into the season, too many injuries, Senga being one of them. He's still not back. It's almost June. I don't think he's going to be back for July. Absolutely brutal. They had that like 5-run lead against the Marlins, and then Diaz came in and just blew it all. Then they lost. They still had a chance after that, and then blew it in extras with Pete Alonso grounding out. They could have tied the game. They're not fun to watch. They are not a fun team to watch. Yankees are on a tear. They got rookies pitching well. It's just it's a joke. Judge has finally woken up. They're on a 7-game winning streak. The Mets are total dumpster fire right now. Their record is okay. They could salvage the season, but they're just going to hang around and keep your interest going until they're they'll get like crushed by the Braves or something. This team isn't making the playoffs. It's just the way it is. They refuse to hit. I don't know why. They don't have enough starting pitching talent, and it's starting to catch up to them. Diaz is his injury. He didn't fully recover from. What a surprise! Because the Mets are terrible at rehabbing players. Um, it's it's not going to be a fun season. They bring up Vientos and he's like freaking hitting the ball all over the place. I was like, why was he in the minors when we have McNeil? Actually, McNeil hasn't been batting too bad lately, but like Lindor is like batting like 197. Like it's a joke. The whole thing's a joke. Pete Alonso, I heard, turned down a 7-year contract. Yeah, go get get a contract from another team. They should trade him. It's unfortunate. I like Pete, but he's not going to live up to whatever contract you give him. So get some prospects and rebuild for next year. That's my 2 cents. Unless they go on a winning streak, but you had your chance against a team like the Marlins and you didn't take advantage of it. Like that. What are you guys doing? I don't understand. But that's it for this week. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you at the next video.